There's a kind of silence that visits late at night, not outside, but inside you. It's that soft ache in your chest when you remember something you wish you hadn't said, or something you didn't do when you should have. Maybe it was a friend you let down, a promise you didn't keep, a mistake at work you keep replaying, even though it's long past. You lie there, staring at the ceiling, and think, why did I do that? Or worse, what kind of person does that make me? Have you ever been there? I have. And if you're watching this, I imagine you have too. We carry guilt like a quiet weight in our chest. Sometimes we think holding on to it is the only way to prove we care, that we're good, decent people. But the more we grip it, the heavier it gets. And here's the question that changed everything for me. What if guilt isn't meant to be carried forever? Today, I want to share with you something different. Something I learned from Japanese culture that gently reshaped the way I see guilt. It's not about pretending it didn't happen. It's not about pushing it down. It's about learning how to hold it, and then let it go, with intention. Over the next few minutes, we'll explore quiet practices, small shifts in perspective, and ancient wisdom that the Japanese have used for centuries, not to escape responsibility, but to transform guilt into something lighter, more human, even beautiful. So, if you've been carrying something, a mistake, a regret, a moment you can't take back, I invite you to stay with me. Maybe you will find, as I did, that guilt doesn't have to be your home. It can be your teacher. And then, you can let it go. Shall we begin? Japanese culture, the root of a different view on guilt. In the West, guilt is often personal. You make a mistake, you carry it, you apologize, but even then you might lie awake, turning it over in your mind. How could I have done that? What does this say about me? It becomes a question of character, even identity. But in Japan, the story is written differently. There's a subtle, almost invisible current beneath how Japanese people respond to mistakes and regrets. It isn't about denying wrongdoing, but neither is it about internalizing it to the point of self-punishment. The focus shifts from the individual self to the relationship between selves, from I am wrong to how can harmony be restored. Let's slow down for a moment and explore this. Imagine someone in Japan forgets to return an important call. Not just any call, but from a colleague whose project depended on it. In many cultures, this person might fall into a spiral of guilt, overthinking, self-blaming, replaying every small decision that led up to that moment. But in Japan, this same mistake might be seen not simply as a personal failure, but as a disruption to Wa, the harmony of the group. Wa is the ideal of balance and peaceful coexistence. It's deeply embedded in Japanese culture, shaping behavior from childhood. Keeping the group calm, relationships smooth, this is not politeness for politeness' sake. It's seen as a kind of social responsibility. When someone breaks that harmony, the goal isn't to wallow in guilt, it's to restore why, to make amends, repair trust, and then move forward. And there's another word that gently reframes this idea, giri. Roughly translated, it means duty or obligation, but not in a cold, rigid sense. It's about living up to the invisible threads that connect us to others, not out of fear, but out of respect. Giri reminds people, you have a role, a bond, a responsibility. And when something breaks, your job is to honor that connection, not punish yourself endlessly. I remember a Japanese friend once told me, we don't sit in guilt, we reflect and we try again. That reflection is another concept, Hansei. It means self-examination, not in a harsh or shameful way, but through quiet thoughtfulness. In workplaces across Japan, after a project ends, and even a successful one, teams often gather not just to celebrate, but to Hansei. They talk openly about what didn't go well, what they could improve. Mistakes are acknowledged without defensiveness. There's no need to beat yourself up to prove you're sincere. The act of noticing and adjusting is enough. Doesn't that sound like something we could use more of? There's a softness in this way of handling guilt, a balance between accepting responsibility and allowing yourself to grow. You're not excused from fixing what went wrong, but you're also not expected to tie your self-worth to a single action forever. This mindset is reinforced by other cultural layers too. The idea of on, for example, a kind of gratitude for what others have given you and a wish to repay it through good actions, or mibun, which is awareness of one's social role, not to confine people, but to recognize that your actions ripple beyond you. Together, these ideas shape a different relationship with guilt, one that's less about internal drama and more about gentle restoration. So, maybe the question for us isn't how do I stop feeling guilty, but what can I do to make this right for others and for myself? And once we've done that, can we let it go? You see, the Japanese aren't free from mistakes. They feel regret. They make missteps, but their culture offers them a path to face it, learn from it, act on it, and release it. As we move forward in this video, I want to invite you to carry that same lens. Let's not see guilt as something to suppress or to wallow in, but as something to understand, to work with, to transform. And maybe in doing that, you'll find what so many people in Japan have found, not an escape from guilt, but a way to honor it and move beyond it. Shall we keep going? Recognizing when guilt helps and when it hurts. Not every feeling of guilt is a problem. In fact, sometimes guilt is a quiet signal that we care, that something matters to us. It can be the first step toward growth or even healing. But other times, it becomes something else, a loop, a shadow we carry. It stops teaching us and starts weighing us down. So, how do we know the difference? This is where a gentle pause can help. A moment of self-inquiry, not to judge, but to understand what kind of guilt we're actually holding. I've found it helpful to ask myself a few simple questions, and maybe, as you're listening, you can ask them too. First, am I thinking about this mistake to learn from it, or just to relive it? If you're replaying what happened so you can do better next time, that's a good sign. It means your guilt is pointing toward responsibility, not punishment. Second, is this guilt helping me take action or keeping me stuck in self-blame? Sometimes we say we're just thinking things through, but really we're circling, going nowhere. We feel like we're being responsible, but deep down, we're not fixing anything. We're just hurting ourselves. Third, does this mistake affect someone else in a way I can still repair? If yes, there's a chance to apologize, to make amends, to do something tangible, and that's powerful. Action can turn regret into repair, but if it's a closed door, maybe the person is gone or the moment is long past, then it's worth asking. What am I still holding on to? And is it helping anyone? Last, is this guilt rooted in something real, or is it more about who I believe I should be? Often, guilt grows out of invisible rules we set for ourselves. I should always be kind. I should never mess up. But we're human. The more rigid those rules, the more fragile we become. And when we break them, even slightly, the guilt rushes in. Not because we did something terrible, but because we think we're not enough. So, how did your answers feel? If you found yourself saying, yes, I'm learning, I'm acting, I'm repairing, then your guilt is likely serving a purpose. It's working with you, not against you. But if your answers lean more toward reliving, blaming, or punishing, maybe that guilt is no longer useful. Maybe it's time to loosen your grip. This kind of reflection isn't about ignoring what we've done. It's about recognizing when we're no longer growing from it, when we're just bleeding energy into a place that's already taught us what it came to teach. I've felt both kinds of guilt. I remember once I hurt someone close to me, not with a big betrayal, but with absence. I didn't show up when they needed me. I apologized. I tried to be there after. But months later, I still found myself replaying the moment in my head late at night, not to understand it, just to punish myself, as if enough regret would somehow make me worthy again. But it didn't. It just made me tired. It wasn't until I asked myself, is this helping anyone, that something shifted. The answer was no. I'd already said sorry. I'd already changed. The only person keeping the guilt alive was me. So I tried something different. I chose to see the guilt as a message that had already been delivered, and I started to let it go. That's not easy, I know, especially if you've been holding guilt close, like a scar or a secret. But sometimes, letting go isn't the same as forgetting. It's the first step toward becoming someone who doesn't need to be perfect, to be good. And here's where the Japanese approach offers us a new path. Because once we recognize that guilt is no longer useful, they don't just sit in it. They move, gently, quietly, intentionally. How? That's what we'll explore next, a way to turn guilt, even the heavy kind, into reflection, into learning, into something you can carry, lightly, Are you ready to try? Secret 1. Hansei, self-reflection to learn from mistakes. There's a quiet scene that happens every day in many Japanese companies. Something small, easy to miss. After a team finishes a project, even a successful one, they don't just celebrate and move on. They gather. Sometimes just a few people, sometimes a whole department, and they ask one simple question. What could we have done better? There's no blaming, no finger pointing, just reflection. That moment is called Hansei, a word that loosely translates to self-reflection, but it's deeper than that. It's not about guilt, it's not about shame. It's about pausing, to look inward, honestly, and then, moving forward, a little wiser. Hansei isn't meant to punish you for what went wrong. It's meant to help you understand why it happened, how it felt, what could be improved. So you don't carry the mistake, but carry the lesson. It's a cultural habit in Japan. People might Hansei after a work meeting, a family dinner, or even just walking home from the train. The moment you choose to look at yourself, not with harshness, but with curiosity, that's Hansei. It's powerful because it separates what you did from who you are. You can make a mistake and still be a good person. That's something many of us need to hear more often. And the best part? You can practice Hansei in small, gentle ways, starting tonight. Here's a version I've used for years. It takes 5 minutes. All you need is a notebook, or just a quiet moment with yourself before bed. Ask yourself 3 simple questions. 1. What did I do today that I wish I had done differently? 2. How might someone else have seen that moment? 3. If I had the chance again, what would I change? That's it. No judging. No, what's wrong with me? Just observation. Like reviewing a film clip, not to criticize the actor, but to understand the scene better. I remember one night, not long ago, when I used Hansei after a difficult conversation with my partner. I'd been distracted, dismissive even. At the time, I didn't think much of it. I was tired. But later, when I sat down with my notebook, those 3 questions opened a door. I saw how he might have felt unheard. I saw the version of myself I didn't want to become. And most importantly, I saw how to show up better the next day. No spiral of guilt, no internal courtroom, just awareness and intention. You might be thinking, but won't this just bring up more things to feel bad about? And honestly, maybe at first. When we stop running from ourselves, we often see more than we expected. But Hansei doesn't ask you to run. It invites you to sit, to notice, to learn, and then to rest. There's a beauty in that pause, a kindness. So tonight I'd like to offer you a small challenge, just for one evening. Before you sleep, close your eyes or open a page and ask those 3 questions. Not perfectly, not deeply, just sincerely. What did I do today that I wish I hadn't? How might that moment have felt to someone else? What would I do differently if I had the chance? Maybe it was interrupting someone, or forgetting a message, or speaking too sharply. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Most growth begins in quiet places. Try it for 3 nights in a row. Just 3. And if you do, I think you'll notice something surprising. The guilt you've been carrying. It might start to soften, because guilt doesn't want to live in you forever. It just wants to be heard. And when you listen truly, it can finally rest. That's the gift of Hansei. Not forgetting what went wrong, but transforming it into something that helps you walk forward a little lighter, a little clearer. And tomorrow, when you wake, you'll already be someone new. Shall we keep going? Secret 2. Kaizen and small actions, turning guilt into growth. We've just explored the power of looking inward through Hansei. But if reflection becomes the only thing we do, it can quietly turn into rumination. It's easy to get stuck in our heads, circling the same thoughts. That's where the next step comes in. Motion. Even the smallest movement forward can change everything. And for that, I want to introduce you to Kaizen, a Japanese philosophy that means continuous improvement, but not the kind that demands big leaps or perfection. Kaizen is about small, steady steps, tiny changes, gentle progress, one moment at a time. In Japan, Kaizen is used in everything from business to daily life. In factories, it might mean adjusting a process to make it just 1% more efficient. At home, It could be rearranging a drawer to save 30 seconds in the morning. The change is so small, you might not notice it at first, but over time, it builds, it compounds, and most importantly, it sticks. So what does this have to do with guilt? When we feel bad about something, especially something we've done, we often freeze. We replay the moment, we criticize ourselves, we wait to feel ready to fix it. But guilt isn't asking us to be perfect. It's asking us to move, just a little. Kaizen gives us a gentle framework for that. Let's say you forgot to return a friend's message. Days pass. You feel guilty but also embarrassed. So you wait, and it gets harder. That guilt becomes heavy. You start thinking, maybe I'm a bad friend. But what if, instead of sitting in that feeling, you took one small action? Just one. You could write a message, 2 sentences. Hey, I'm sorry I disappeared. Life got away from me. Can we catch up soon? It doesn't have to be a grand apology. It doesn't have to fix everything right away. But it's movement, and that movement begins to release the weight. Or maybe you've been falling short at work, missing deadlines, losing focus. The guilt piles up. Instead of pushing through with big, unsustainable goals, Kaizen would say, start with 10 extra minutes each morning. Just 10 minutes of focused, intentional effort. It sounds small, it is small, but it means something. It tells your brain, I'm not stuck. I'm choosing to get better. That's the heart of Kaizen. You don't wait for the guilt to go away before you act. You act, and the guilt gradually lets go of you. And it's not about checking boxes. It's about reconnecting to your values through motion. So, here's a gentle invitation. Think of one moment recently that still lingers, something you wish you'd done differently. Now, ask yourself, what is one small action I can take in the next 24 to 48 hours to move in a better direction? Not a big gesture, not a life overhaul, just a step. Maybe it's making that call, or writing that note, or adjusting your routine by a few minutes. The point is not to impress anyone. It's to show yourself that you are capable of turning regret into growth, without self-punishment. I tried this recently after I missed an important meeting with someone I deeply respect. I felt awful. I kept thinking, they probably think I'm careless. For 2 days, I sat in that feeling, but then I remembered Kaizen. I sent a short email, not over-explaining, just taking ownership. And then, I set a small reminder on my calendar. Prepare 10 minutes early next time. That was it. Did it erase the mistake? No. But it replaced my shame with something softer. Progress. Guilt loves to convince us that we're stuck, that we're bad, that we can't undo what's been done. But Kaizen whispers something else. You can move, and even the smallest step counts. So, if something's been weighing on your heart, don't wait for the perfect time. Choose one small thing. Do it gently, and let it be enough. Because you don't have to climb a mountain today. You just have to take the next step. Ready to take it with me? Secret 3. Balancing the self and the group. Responsibility and compassion. In many Japanese companies, when someone makes a mistake, they don't get pulled into a room for a harsh lecture. More often, they have a quiet conversation. Sometimes, it's with a supervisor. Sometimes, it's with the team. The question isn't who messed this up, but how can we fix this together? There's something deeply human in that. In Japanese culture, the idea of self is rarely isolated. You are not just you. You are a son, a friend, a teammate, a citizen. You exist in relationship with your family, your group, your community. So, when a mistake happens, it's not only your burden. The group shares the weight. Not to excuse it, but to restore balance. It's a powerful shift. Because guilt often grows heavier when we believe we have to carry it alone. That it's our failure, our shame, and therefore our punishment. But what if it doesn't have to be that way? What if guilt is something that can be softened in connection? I used to believe that if I hurt someone, the most honorable thing I could do was suffer silently. I thought that was how you prove you regret something. You stay quiet, keep your head down, and feel bad. For as long as it takes. But silence doesn't heal. It just hides the pain. And the guilt stays. Years ago, I said something careless to a close friend. I didn't mean harm, but I saw the hurt in their eyes. I never addressed it. I told myself, they'll forget. Or, it wasn't that serious. But the truth was, I was scared. Scared of facing their disappointment. Scared of admitting I'd messed up. So instead, I held the guilt and drifted away. It wasn't until much later, after learning from the Japanese approach, that I did something different. I reached out. I told them, "I think I hurt you. I'm sorry. I want to take responsibility and I want to repair this." To my surprise, they didn't shut me out. They thanked me. They told me they'd felt it too and had been waiting for me to say something. That conversation, not the guilt, was what brought healing. In Japan, when someone makes a mistake, there is often a process, acknowledging it, taking responsibility, and restoring harmony. The individual owns their part, but the group participates in the repair. There's an understanding that mistakes don't make you unworthy. They just make you human. And that's something I think we could all use more of. So here's a gentle idea. If the guilt you're carrying involves another person, don't keep it to yourself. Don't wait until you've suffered enough to be allowed to speak. Just speak. Share your remorse, not as punishment, but as an invitation to reconnect. You can say something like, "I've been thinking about something I did, and I want to make it right. Can we talk about it?" You don't need perfect words. You just need honesty. And if the guilt you carry is private, something that doesn't involve others, don't hold it in your chest like a secret. Share it with someone you trust, a friend, a mentor, a therapist. Let someone witness your process, not to fix it for you, but to remind you, you are not your worst moment. You are not alone. When we carry guilt in isolation, it becomes heavy. But when we bring it into the light, into community, into conversation, it becomes something else, a bridge, a second chance. So I invite you to ask yourself, is there someone I need to talk to, someone I need to apologize to, or simply open up to? And if that question stirs something in you, I hope you'll follow it. Because sometimes the fastest way to let go of guilt isn't to wrestle with it in silence, but to speak it out loud, to bring it into relationship. And in doing that, not only do you heal, you invite others to heal too. Let's keep going. Secret 4, living in the present and finding purpose. Ikigai and mindfulness. There's a quiet power in knowing why you wake up each morning, not because your alarm tells you to, not because you're expected to be somewhere, but because something inside you wants to be awake, to show up, to live. In Japan, they call this Ikigai, your reason for being, your reason to rise. It doesn't have to be grand. You don't need to have a world-changing mission or a perfect career. Your Ikigai might be raising a child, writing stories, making people laugh, taking care of your grandmother. It might even be something as small as making the perfect cup of tea. What matters is that it's yours. And when you hold it close, when you live in alignment with it, the ghosts of guilt begin to fade. Not because your mistakes disappear, but because your life has direction. Purpose gives your mind something to focus on besides regret. It moves you from the past into the present. And that's where mindfulness begins. Mindfulness is not some mysterious or complicated practice. At its heart, it's the simple act of being where you are, fully, without needing to change it, without letting the mind spin endlessly into what happened yesterday or what might go wrong tomorrow. It's the breath you're taking right now, the sound of your feet touching the ground, the feel of sunlight on your face, or the warmth of a mug in your hands. In Japanese culture, mindfulness is woven into everyday life, in the way a tea master prepares a cup, in the slowness of a mindful walk through a garden, in the ritual of arranging flowers or folding clothes. There's no rush, no judgment, just presence. And presence has a gentle way of dusting off the guilt we tend to carry. When we stay rooted in the now, when we're here instead of circling back to what we wish we had done, something loosens. The past loses its grip. And in that looseness, we breathe easier. So how do we bring that into our lives? You don't need to move to Japan or spend hours meditating. You can start small, just like everything we've talked about so far. Here's one way. Tomorrow morning, before your phone, before your to-do list, sit quietly for 5 minutes. You don't need to empty your mind. Just ask yourself one question. What is one thing that gives today meaning for me? It could be a conversation you want to have, a meal you want to cook, a task you want to finish with care. Let it be small, but true. That's your Ikigai for the day. That's your anchor. And as the day goes on, when guilt tries to sneak back in about something you said last week or a missed opportunity, Gently return to that one purpose. Remind yourself, this is why I'm here today. It won't erase the past, but it will soften its sharp edges. And over time, as you continue to live each day with presence and purpose, something shifts. You start to realize you don't have to be trapped in regret to become a better person. You just have to live forward with care. I've felt it in my own life, especially during seasons when guilt tried to make itself a permanent roommate. What helped me wasn't analysis or punishment. It was attention. Breathing while washing dishes, writing a few words each morning about what matters, laughing with someone I love. Those things didn't fix the past, but they made space for the present. And in that space, I started to feel free again. So if you've been haunted by old guilt, I invite you to try this. Tomorrow morning, sit quietly, breathe. Ask yourself, what matters to me today? And let that guide your steps. You might be surprised how quickly the weight begins to lift. Not because you've forgotten, but because you're finally moving towards something brighter, and you deserve that. Let's keep going. Secret 5, apologize, make amends, and then let go. The Japanese art of closure. In Japan, when someone makes a mistake, they don't just say sorry. They bow. They return a favor. They stay late at work to help fix what went wrong. They bring a small gift. They follow up. The apology isn't just in the words, it's in the gesture, in the effort, in the quiet sincerity of showing that they mean it. Because in Japanese culture, the true apology begins after the words, "I'm sorry." There's something deeply healing about that. Guilt on its own can easily become circular. We feel bad, we apologize, but we're still left with that heaviness, that whisper in our minds that says, it wasn't enough. And sometimes, that whisper grows louder over time, not quieter. But what if part of that pain comes from a missing piece, not the apology itself, but the repair? The Japanese approach to forgiveness doesn't stop with verbal remorse. It emphasizes action, however small. A sincere gesture that helps restore balance. Not to erase the mistake, but to honor the relationship, the impact, the values that were shaken. I once delayed an important task at work, and as a result, my teammate had to scramble to meet the deadline. I apologized, of course, but what really mattered was what I did next. That evening, I stayed behind 2 extra hours, helping them finish another project they hadn't even asked me to help with. I didn't do it to earn points. I did it because I wanted them to feel, tangibly, that they weren't alone, that I saw the impact and cared enough to do something. Afterward, they smiled and said, "You didn't have to do that, but I'm really glad you did." And just like that, the guilt started to dissolve. That's the thing about guilt. It clings when it has nowhere to go. But when you channel it, when you turn it into motion, it becomes something else. Contribution, connection, healing. So, if you've hurt someone or let them down, don't stop at the apology. Ask yourself, what could I do to help repair this? Maybe it's sending a thoughtful note. Maybe it's doing something for them that eases their day. Maybe it's just showing up, again and again, with presence and care. And if you've done that, and the other person has accepted your apology, then here's the hardest and most liberating step. Let go. Truly. So many of us keep holding on to guilt long after the damage is done and the repair is made. We think we have to serve time, that it would be selfish to forgive ourselves too soon. But that's not healing. That's self-punishment. And it helps no one. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen. It means acknowledging, I made a mistake. I took responsibility. I did what I could. And now, I choose to move forward. That is closure. That is peace. And that is also forgiveness, not just for others, but for yourself. So I want to ask you gently, is there a mistake you've already apologized for? Something you've tried to make right, but still can't release? What would it look like to finally set it down? You might be surprised by how much lighter you feel, how much more space opens up in your heart, not just for peace, but for joy. Because the purpose of guilt isn't to stay, it's to guide. And once it's done that, once it has led you to action, understanding, and restoration, it no longer has a job. You can thank it and let it leave. This is the final step, the quiet liberation. Not forgetting, but forgiving. Not running away, but walking ahead with gentleness. You've carried it long enough. It's time, let it go. Let's bring everything together. If you remember only 3 things from this video, let it be this. First, Hansei teaches us to reflect, not to punish ourselves, but to learn and grow. Second, Kaizen reminds us that even the smallest step forward can transform guilt into movement. And third, real healing happens when we take responsibility, make amends, and then allow ourselves to let go. You don't have to do everything at once. You don't even have to do it all. Just pick one idea that resonated with you. Try it, gently, honestly, and see how it feels. Maybe tonight, you write a short Hansei reflection in your journal, just one sentence. What do I wish I'd done differently today? Maybe tomorrow, you reach out to someone you've been holding guilt around, even just to say, I've been thinking about what happened. Or maybe you take 5 minutes in the morning, breathe quietly, and ask yourself, what gives today meaning? I want to invite you to try a 7-day mini experiment. Each day, pick one small action from these Japanese practices. Something quiet, something doable, and watch what begins to shift, not outside, but within. If you feel moved, I'd love to hear about it. Share in the comments. What's one piece of guilt you're ready to release? What's one step you're going to take? You never know. Your story might give someone else the courage to begin their own. And if you found value in this video, feel free to like, subscribe, or share it with someone who might need it. Someone carrying something heavy, who just needs a gentler way forward. Thank you truly for spending this time with me, for being open, for being human. In the next video, we'll explore how Japanese aesthetics, like Wabi-Sabi, can help us embrace imperfection more fully. I think you'll love it. Until then, take care of yourself. Let what needs to rest, rest, and breathe easy. You're already on your way.